All right. Well, thank you for joining the last of this 2024 year workshop featuring Kelly Risse. And I'm really excited we could all be here today because obviously there was some sort of technology glitch. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Kelly. I will be recording this. So if you guys want to put your cameras on, that would be great. If not, no worries. And I'll be featuring this on the Great YouTube station as well. So you can watch at a later date. So Kelly, I'll kick it to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here and to be sharing this with you. And okay, hang on a second, because yes, my computer's all going crazy right here. Okay, I see all kinds of things. So one moment. I love computers. Okay, very good. So let me get so I can see all of us for now. Perfect. So today what I've been speaking on lately is it's called Succeed with Ease. All right. And this is what I have been just traveling around speaking on because what happened to me, the brief part of my story is that I was someone who was very caught up in the grind of things and the doer. I was always doing and going. And, my day started early with caffeine and then it was on. And I had kids. And so it was getting them ready and myself ready. And it was just that never ending nonstop. It was in the afternoon needing more caffeine to keep me going. So I called it the grind. And I lived this way thinking, well, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm volunteering for my kids' things. I'm making sure, everything is going on at home. Like I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be until I had a health crisis. And this is pretty common for a lot of people. And I like to call myself that I would say that I was very much a high achiever. And high achievers often end up living in this cycle. We're like, go, 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 go. And then we're like, oh, I'm going to need a break, right? We're like, I just can't do it anymore. Just leave me alone. Don't talk to me. I need to crash. And then we're like, go, because we end up feeling like when we're down, we're like, wait, I'm not doing anything. What is happening? Like I'm not doing enough now. Now here I am. And so then we ramp up again. And then we just have these cycles of the up and down, right? Like kind of like the roller coasters. Well, I ended up being way too long at the go, 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 go. Landed myself in the hospital. I ended up in supraventricular tachycardia. And that means that my heart rate was like one night, and I had to have the paramedics come, 911 had to come and actually restart my heart and get it back going normal. And I thought, I just can't keep living this way. Like, this is crazy because through it all, I realized I was missing connections with my kids. How effective was I being at anything when I was trying to do everything? Right. And it was very much this whole get caught up in the status of just, I'm going to say, climbing the ladder of life, keeping up with the Joneses, right? If you're in corporate America, we get the climbing the ladder, right? If we're our own business owner, we get the whole thing of like, we just have to be doing more to just keep going in our businesses. And then, of course, if we have a family, there's that also. And so I realized that what I needed to do was to get out of high performer mode and get into peak performer, or excuse me, high achiever mode and get into high performer or peak performer mode. So how many of you can relate to my story in any way? Have you been the go, 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 doer, doer, doer? Yeah. And I have another kind of a workshop, a talk that I do that I talk about stress personalities, right? And the stress personalities can be, we are the accomplisher, on to the next thing, next thing, next thing. It's the doer. How many things are we doing, right? Sticky notes galore, lists galore. The worrier. The worrier is actually a stress personality, right? We worry about everything. I was worrying about, where my kids were going to college when they were like, two. Not necessary, right? And so there's these stress personalities that go along with us that we just get caught up in. And so it was through that. And then, I feel like there are sayings that end up just in that we just end up living by. So I'll give you one, for example, and it is the no pain, no gain. Okay. And we take that on, no pain, no gain. And then we're like, oh, wait, like, this is too easy. What is happening? I must not be making the gains that I should be making. Can you all think of any sayings that like ring true that are like that?
How
Fake
about
it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Good. Yep. What else?
you can sleep when you're dead?
Yes, you can sleep when you're dead. Why sleep now? We'll just do that when we're dead. Good. Anybody else have one? These are great. So the other one that comes to mind for me is, well, relaxing equals lazy.
Yes.
And that happened to me when this was my thinking. My husband was like, hey, let's go and let's take the boys. This is when my kids were younger. Let's go take the boys. We had four-wheelers and let's go out and sit in the woods all weekend. What? Like, we're going to sit in the woods all weekend? Like, I'm not going to be doing things? Are you kidding me? Like, seriously. I was like, we're just going to sit? Like that, y'all, that felt so uncomfortable to me. Just uncomfortable. And yes, I could go in the woods and find a million things that I could be doing, but he's like, let's just, we'll take the four-wheelers out and then we'll just sit around a campfire. Like, oh my God, that sounds awful. Now I'm happy to say that I've learned how to do that. And it is fabulous. But these are sayings that I was so just caught up in of I have to live in the way of I will sleep when I will die, or no pain, no gain. And so really just thinking about these and going, what beliefs, what mantras are running through my head that are not getting me anywhere, that I really need to go. And then I love when 75 Hard came out. So I don't know, the people that I can't see, I don't know if you're familiar with 75 Hard. Those of you that I can see, so 75 Hard is the whole, like, it's kind of like an exercise regimen, a life regimen that really prepares you to get habits in place. And it is called 75 Hard for a reason. And so there's a certain dietary plan that you follow. You need to be reading so many pages, so many times, so many pages a day. You need to be exercising 2 times a day, not once, but twice. Once in the morning, and then you need to do like take a walk or something in the evening also. It is very strict, and no alcohol. And if you mess up within the 75 days, you have to start your 75 days over. You have to go back to day one. Okay. So some people do it, they have to start over again, they do it again. Some people make it through the full 75 days. And then do you know what happens on day 76? First of all, this. Oh. And second of all, they're like, I need a drink. I'm not exercising today. Like all the habits that they just built up go out the window because they are exhausted. Does that remind you of the cycle of the up and down? Right. And so there's actually a 75 medium and a 75 easy. But people often look at those and they're like, well, if you're not doing the hard, what are you doing? Right? No pain, no gain. Okay. So I want to show you, this is what I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you a little chart that I just absolutely love to put some things in context here. So let me pull this up here. And let me make it nice and big so that you can see it. Okay, so this is when we're talking about like really getting into that, like looking at like peak performance and our stress level. So this is our like we want to be optimized and energized. So this is like peak performance zones. So if we look, we have a bored, comfort, stretch, strain, and burnout. High achievers, does anybody want to guess in the chat where high achievers usually live? Which one of these zones do high achievers? So high achievers.
I'm thinking strain.
You are correct, Jennifer Bardot. They live in strain on the edge of burnout. That's where they live. Okay. For those of you that can't see the chart, let me go through it real quick. So we have a bored, comfort, stretch, strain, and then burnout. High achievers live in strain. And what goes with that is anxious and overwhelmed. And then on the edge of burnout, which is exhausted and detached. Now, through this, we high achievers, I'll put myself in that category for a minute, anxious, overwhelmed, all of a sudden we're exhausted. Then we go all the way back to bored, which is disengaged and underutilized because we wore ourselves out. And now we're like, and then we're there. And that's when we're like, wait, what am I doing? This is crazy. Like, I need to be doing more. I'm not doing enough. And then off we go again, all the way back. Okay. And so our ideal zones are comfort and stretch. And let me tell you what happens when we get in this comfort. Comfort is interested and attentive. We are interested in what are doing. We are attentive in what we are doing, and it's comfortable. But we have also, how many have heard the saying, you must always live outside your comfort zone? That is where the greatest things happen. So the word comfort, we don't even like the word comfort. Then there's stretch. Now, we do like stretch. Stretch is optimized, stretch is energized, stretch is where we're in the flow. You all know you love this place, and you love this place so much, you get so frustrated that you can't be there all the time. When you're there, you're like, that was amazing. Like, this is how I want to be all the time. Why can't I be this way all the time? Oh, because I'm in strain. I'm in overwhelm all the time, right? And so what we need to do is we need to shift, and we need to get back to the ideal zones of comfort and stretch. Okay. Now, to do that, stop my share. To do that, you're like, that's great, Kelly. I totally get that. That was a beautiful visual. Now, how are we doing that? What is going to happen? Okay, so I like to look at this in 4 areas. And through my years of coaching clients, these are the 4 areas that are the most impactful. In fact, they are so impactful. I am in the process of writing a 4-book series that will come out early in 2025 that is with my Succeed to Ease. It's called Succeed to Ease series, and each book is dedicated to the path. All right. So here's what we need. We need we need mindset. We need to make sure that our mindset is in the right place. We have to master our mindset so that we can literally be in the right thinking to completely avoid burnout and to be able to redefine what success means. And that's a big one. Okay. We'll come back to that in a minute. The second thing is we need to look at time, focus, and productivity. How are we streamlining our day? Where is our focus? Are we streamlining our day so that we can be sustainable? Because we have to be in this for the long haul. That's why when I ended up in the hospital, like, I'm like, oh, what? Like, I am way too, y'all, I was like 40 something. Like, I am way too young to be having these health issues when I need to be living a very full, long life. Like, we have to do this sustainably. And so part of that is streamlining what we're doing. And can I ask, is anybody willing to say, like, how good are you at delegating, asking for help, automating, and really letting go of anything that is no longer serving you, even if you've been doing it forever?
What's that look like?
Yeah, right. I love that, Vicki. Thank you. And that's a big, like, that is a big thing, right? And so, Vicki, what I'm going to go back to is, like, the first thing that has to happen is we got to go back to the mindset so that we can do that. Okay. Then the third part of the path is energy and well-being. There are 6 different forms of self-care. 6 forms. And so in my book, I will break down, like, I give tips for each form of self-care. So here's the way that I like to look at, like, the 6. You can go on and there's multiple different ways of kind of categories that people will put them in. These are the 6 ways that make the most sense to me, and the way that I work with clients, and that seem to make the most sense to my clients. So they are physical self-care. So this is kind of the self-care that we think of, right? This is our, are you drinking your water? Are you getting your movement in? Are you sleeping, right? Are you eating foods that are really fueling your body? So, things like that. That's in your physical. Then we have your mental self-care. And so there's a lot of this. Number 1, are you clearing the things out that don't need to belong there? Because that helps with focus. That is all tied together. Okay. Are you doing things such as like brain teasers that are just keeping you mentally sharp? Are you, for your mental self-care, are you really allowing yourself that space to just be like creative and just wonder? You know how kids do that? Like, are we doing that? So that falls in the mental. Then we have emotional self-care. And the emotional self-care, to me, is one of the things that we seem to neglect. And the emotional self-care piece, to me, because we are go, 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 this is the one where we're like shove down, shove down, shove down. Like, who's got time to deal with emotions, right? Like, that's what we're like, whoosh. Okay. Now, I do know that some of you move through them, like we feel them, right? But we're also like, oh, I feel it, but I don't have time to deal with it. So hold back the tears, keep going. And this is so important. This is one of the big things. Joanne, it was you that talked about like, oh, the breakthrough. It's one of the biggest things that I do actually in my breakthrough is the emotional piece to it. Because I don't know if you know, ladies, you have 5 negative emotions, that one of them usually drives you. Okay. And that means that you respond quick to it. Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. Right? So I know a lot of women that the guilt is high. And so everything that they do is driven from guilt, right? They say yes because of guilt, right? If they don't do something, they may say no, but the guilt is just like, it just takes over them, right? It's kind of like that. We call it unwarranted. So for me, mine was anger. Y'all, I was quick to anger. Part of that was because of my dad. My dad was very quick to anger, so I grew up in that. And so that was like that was kind of in me. And so I took that on. So I was very quick to anger. So when I was able to level that off, y'all, I could move through my day differently. Do you know what it's like to move through your day when your emotions are more stable and they're not just triggered off? It's like, it's fantastic. You can get way more done, and you can, what I call, succeed with ease a whole lot easier. So think about that right now. Like, what, like, emotions for you, like, where are you on that? You know what I mean? Like, which one of those for you? When I said one of those, where you're like, oh, sometimes it's hurt depending on what we've been through. Sometimes it's sadness. If you've lost very close people to you very early in your life, then it can be sadness that can be triggered more. And then you make decisions based around that. Okay, 4th is let's talk about personal self-care. This goes to the are you cleaning out your closet? Are you decluttering your space? Just, kind of along the, like, how are your finances? Are you checking them? Do you know your numbers? Like that kind of goes along with that personal self-care. Then we have well, the 5th one is going to come to me in just a second. The 6th one is spiritual
Yeah.
self-care. And spiritual self-care is that one is so important, because it's the practice of gratitude, and it's the, are you grounding yourself, and do you have hope? Right? Is that hope there for you every day? And what are you tapping into that, and everybody's source of spirituality, that is your own, but just having that for you and taking time to make, and it's the connection with people also, right? Having that as well. And Okay. I'm going to have to write them out, y'all. It'll come to me in just a second. Or if you're thinking of one that I have not hit on: physical, emotional, mental, personal, spiritual, and well, I'll come up with it in a second. We'll come back to that. Yes, Esmeralda, spiritual. Yes. And the whole thing is making sure that all of these are in your, like, you're doing self-care for all of these. One of them may be higher, one of them may be your top priority. Just making sure that you're not neglecting any of the areas would be, the most important. Oh, social. I knew I'd come up with it. See, I just needed to talk for another minute. Social self-care. And that is the whole connection piece. Are you making time for friends? Are you, unplugging, things like that? So social is very important also. So I'll say them one more time: physical, mental, emotional, personal, social, and spiritual. And then the last path that I look at is really connecting with others, so that when you look at your mindset and the productivity and the self-care, you're leading yourself. How about others? How about your connection with others and really helping lead others? That's a whole nother part of this succeeding with ease thing, is connecting with others and leading with others. And so those are the 4 parts. So I want to take a minute and I want you to, if you have a piece of paper in your mind, whatever you have, I want to go through each one and I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. Like, I am rock solid in this. Like, I don't even need to go to one more. Like, I don't need to go to one more workshop. I can teach this stuff. I do this stuff. I live this stuff. Teach it, breathe it, do it. 1 being, oh my, like, this isn't even on my radar right now. 5 being, ooh, I'm kind of hit or miss. You know what I mean? Like, it's there, but I'm not that, it's here or there. So let's start with, how do you feel like, let's think about succeeding with ease, ladies. And succeed with ease, right? For you, this could be having more balance at whatever succeed to ease means. Like, for me, it's balance. It's having that very full life, right? So that it's not all about work. It's about family and spirituality and connections and having personal development and having good finances. It's having all of that. So where is your mindset around you succeeding with these? Are you still like, nope, I have to be in the grind? Like, the grind is where I am. Think about that on a scale of 1 to 10.
For me, I don't
One
realize.
one is I'm in the
Go ahead.
grind. 10
Yeah.
is, oh no, life is amazing. Life is so like, I have it all. Okay. Then let's move to the time, focus, and productivity. So where are you there? When you think about your time, your focus, and I feel like a lot of my clients struggle with the focus. It's the red shiny object syndrome, right? It's I have 25 tabs open on my computer. It's, like, really think about streamlining your day so that you have time at the end of your workday to be present with your family or whatever you're doing in the evening. You have time for hobbies. You have time to do what you love. It's not putting those on the back burner until your kids are old. It's also doing them now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, do it. I am like so organized, productive, focused on all things in life, right? And 1 being not so much. Give yourself a rating. Okay. And then let's look at your energy and well-being. So your self-care. Are you taking care of yourself in all 6 areas? Do you have really good tips to keep your stress down? Do you have good tips that like, is your schedule prioritizing you so that you have you time in there? And then last, how are you doing on leading with connections, like just that relationship piece and connecting with others if you're building a team. Maybe relate for us, it's like, how are you with networking, meeting new people, collaborating? How's collaboration going? How do you do with that on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest?
10 being a good thing, right?
10 is a good thing. You're like, man, I'm nailing this.
Okay.
And
Okay.
1 is like, oh, I could use some help in this area. Okay. Is anybody willing to share what they're high in, what they're low in, or what you noticed? Like, what did you notice when you did that little assessment on yourself? Is anybody willing to share? You can either put it in the chat. I'll get the chat open so I can
I
see it.
can share while you're looking. I
Sure.
wanted to say, one of the things that came out with me is like I'm low on time, but not because I'm not intentional about my time. So I end up using social media scrolling and looking at memes and all that stuff. I spend way too much time on that. And then I tell myself that it's relaxing and it's self-care, but I don't think that's true. It's probably doing more harm than good. So that came up with me on the time focus and the energy well-being. I was like, well, I'm not actually busy, but I'm making myself busy to avoid, maybe having those thoughts or recognizing those things in myself. I'm distracting myself.
Yes. Pamela, thank you for that. First of all, thank you for being honest and sharing, because I'm sure there are many of us that were shaking our head going, oh yeah, we understand that. And I love that you brought up the avoiding. Like, by doing that, what are you avoiding? And I feel like you were on in the beginning when I really talked about like that high achiever mode versus high performer mode. And really, one of the things that high achievers will do is they will avoid, whereas high performers will address it, and they will address it faster, because high achievers often like, they don't want to know. You know what I mean? Like, it's easier to avoid it than it is to actually address it. Whereas high performers, to get into peak performance, they know that they have to address it, whatever it is, right? And to move forward, to go faster with ease. Whereas avoiders, we avoid it. And you know what happens when you avoid stuff, ladies?
It gets bigger.
Yes, and it sits on you like a brick, right? It gets bigger. It sits on you like a brick. It weighs you down, and it's always running in the back of your mind, right? So you're just avoiding it, thinking, oh, I'll deal with it later. But the whole time it's just running and running and running, and it's doing more harm than good. Yeah. So thank you, Pam.
Like, done is better than perfect. And that's my
Yes.
high achiever is I'm going to avoid it until I can fully wrap my head around it and know that I can do it perfectly, when in reality, I just need to get it done.
Yes, that is one of my big principles in my book, Mindset Mastery, is progress over perfection. Because progress, like, if we're always just taking steps forward to keep us out of the perfection, right? I don't, if you know me, if anybody has heard any of my stories anywhere else that I've talked, you know that I'm a former dancer, and the dance world is all about perfection. And maybe you grew up doing something different. I mean, if you played an instrument, yep, you need to be perfect, right? Whatever that is, we grew up in that, like, I have to do this perfectly. I grew up in pageants. You win if you're perfect. You win if you look perfect. You win if you talk perfect. You win if your performance was perfect. Like, it was about perfect. And I had to deprogram, and I have, when I mentioned the breakthrough, I have actually had several breakthroughs done on myself, because I needed to be deprogrammed of that. So my first breakthrough was about that. And that's exactly what it did, because I had to bring more compassion into me. Like I was the self-critical, and I needed more compassion, because if I was compassionate with myself, I could move forward in a way that it didn't have to be perfect. But the critical Kelly was like, no, this has to be perfect. This has to be right. It has to be whatever. Right. And so I had to bring in more self-compassion towards myself. Compassion and grace, compassion and grace, compassion and grace. Right. That became the mantra that I needed for myself. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share something they realized? Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Speaking of that, I had to learn good enough is good enough.
Yes, yes. There comes a time, and I think, when we talk about succeeding with ease, some people are like, well, will I succeed? Like, will I get there? Right? Because, well, what do you mean? Well, good enough. Where are you giving a presentation that you really need to be your best, do your best? And where in your life is this is okay, this is good enough? And I also feel like there are seasons of things that change. You know what I mean? Like when you have little kids, or when your kids are when at the age where you're running around to sports activities and that's all you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Jen, you have three kids, right? You know what I mean? The more kids you have, the more that you're like, okay, well, maybe the dust, whatever. Like this isn't good enough for right now, right? There's things that like that's just is going to and that's just a season of life type thing. But yes, I love that. Who else realized something? Yes. Diane, hello.
Hello, sweetie. Hi. I guess I just never realized I was a high achiever. That just never occurred to me.
Yeah.
Because I,
And the biggest thing that I've learned about high performers is that high performers truly are sustainable.
Mm,
They are the ones that you're like, ah, wow. Like they're achieving and yet they're sustainable, and they don't seem to do this thing that I keep doing. And it really, and the hardest part of that was like, I was like, well, I took pride in being a high achiever. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, wait, you mean I can actually be better if I'm a high performer? Oh, let me shift and get these things in line to be that. And the difference that I have noticed in myself, in my productivity, in my business, y'all, the fact of, I mean, just that I'm writing 4 books, going through that at the process, that I did a website total upgrade, that I'm, like being able to do more in my business because I have learned more sustainability. And also, I am still going out with friends. I'm still doing things with my husband. He still loves me and likes me. Because there was a time when I was slamming cabinets around. I know some of you have heard that story. You know what I mean? Like my husband wouldn't be at bed and I would just, like, the dishwasher needed to be empty and I would be doing it as loudly as I could because I was mad that he was sleeping and that I was trying to make the house perfect. And so I'd be slamming everything around, right? Well, that doesn't happen anymore because it's okay. Like it's all going to be okay. So the sustainability. Jennifer, can you tell me more about I think it was shame? Because
Well,
this is a
I
big
think
thing.
Pamela was asking what were the 5 drivers. I was thinking the one that was missing
thank
was
you.
shame. Is
Anger,
that
yep.
right?
Anger, sadness, fear, hurt,
Hurt. Okay.
and guilt. But
Okay.
you brought up shame, and I'm going to, because you put that word in
Well,
there.
I think as a high achiever, shame comes with the
Shame
territory.
is a
Yeah.
huge, shame
Yeah.
is a huge thing for high achievers. When you look at the difference, it is a huge thing. So for high achievers, if something doesn't go right, if we're not, the other thing is for high achievers, don't ever make a high achiever look bad. Like that's a big thing for them, right? Whereas high performers, it's just feedback. They're like, all right, move on. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like that didn't work. I'm going to do it differently. Look at all the people that have bought businesses and sold them. Like, oh, I bought a business, didn't do well, sold it, got out, whatever, filed bankruptcy, and they just keep moving. They just keep moving on. Right. And there's like, they just It's just part of it. As opposed to carrying the shame around of it. Like those are big differences. And so it's really shifting that. And when you can shift that, you can end up being a high performer that can be in peak performance and be succeeding with ease. So that is the whole, like to me, like that needs to be the goal. If you're a high performer, or a high achiever, the goal is to get to high performer. That is what I work with my clients on. And it involves the mindset, the time, focus, and productivity, the taking care of yourself, that self-care, the energy, and the well-being. And you know, the big thing is you have to look at time management along with energy management. Because if we don't have energy management, then we're not managing our time. Right? Because if our energy is low, then we often end up scrolling on social media way too long, right? Binging Netflix way too long, as opposed to being in that peak performance mode. So, those are, and you know, ladies, I went to Croatia last September. And when I went to Croatia, I'm actually, let me see if I can pull up. I want to show you this picture. So give me one moment and let me see if I can pull it up, because it will make all the difference if you see this amazing picture. But I just noticed that in my one slideshow, I have it off as a slide and I need to figure out how to turn it back on so you can see the picture. But I don't know how to do that. Who knows how to turn a picture back on if you turned it off in your slideshow? Anybody? I may not be able to show you the picture. Okay, I'll describe it. So we're in Croatia and we're going to this thing called the Blue Hole. And the Blue Hole is a cave. It's a beautiful cave, okay? So all I know is we're going to a cave and it's going to be beautiful. So we get off of our yacht that we're on and we get into these little boats that seat about 8 people, you know, like a little John boat. And we're in this John boat and we're going, you know, across the sea. And here we are. And I see this big, huge land formation. And the little lady that's guiding our boat, our little tour guide, she goes, okay. She goes, and we're going to go through that hole right there to get into the cave. Y'all, this was a mouse hole. It was like this big, okay, this big. And I was like, we're doing what? Like I started to panic. You know that overwhelming feeling when you start to panic and you're like, what? So I start to panic and I'm like, how can I get out of this boat? Like, I don't know how we're getting through there. What is happening? Like I literally, except I can't swim very well. So I'm like, well, that's not an option. So I'm staying in the boat. So she stops and she sees the panic in my eyes and she's like, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna crunch down like this and we're gonna go through and then we're gonna get through and we'll be inside the cave. So my eyes are still going back and forth and I'm like this. And I said, can you tell me how long we're going to be down like this? Like, how long is this going to take? And she said, oh, we're just going to, you know, a quick count to 10. And I was like, oh, okay. So a quick count to 10 and we'll be through. And then how open will it be? Because I went to a cave in Mexico that, you know, the stalag, whatever hangs down on top of you, they were like still right here, right? Like we were still like this. And she goes, oh no, when we get in there, it's going to be really, really open. And I was like, okay. So we go and we crouch down and we go through and we go through and we counting to 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and we get in there and it is the most gorgeous, y'all, blue, the color of the most magnificent. So it's the sun reflecting on the sea, which makes it the most beautiful blue. And through that, it was like, if I just learn to ask for help, right? I asked for help. And I think we forget to do that sometimes, is asking for help, knowing that we'll be okay, ask for help, know that we'll be okay, and that the whole world can open up for us. And this whole idea of succeed with ease can open up so many new possibilities if we stop the grind and stop living like we're living, right? opportunities will open. See, more success will open. We will have better connections with our family. We will have better connections with ourselves. That's the whole reason that I have put so much passion into doing this, is so that we can have the most fulfilled life possible while we are here on this earth, and that we can truly make the connections that we want to make with the people while we're here. Because us working all the time, I mean, I know we're all passionate about what we do. We are. We are. And there's so much more we can be passionate about also that can really fill our cups. Yes, thank you, Pamela. That's like the picture. There it is. Do you see that? Except when you're far away from it and you're coming up on it, that hole looks even smaller. It literally looks like a mouse hole like this if you look in your chat. Yep, that was it. So what I want to do is, who has questions about anything that I've talked about? Anybody have a question?
I don't have a question. Good morning, everyone. It's Arinola Solanki here. No question, but I have a good example to share just based on what you've said so far.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting recently, and one of the leaders who was supposed to be giving a presentation wasn't feeling well. But because she wanted to show up and be a good leader that she is, she came anyway. After I've already given an excuse for her that, hey, she won't be here and we can just carry on. But then during the meeting, you can tell she was in so much pain. Someone asked a question and she snapped.
Yep.
And it's so out of character for her. And then she had to go and do all the, oh, I'm sorry, and blah, blah, blah. But if only she just stayed behind and said, look, I'm not feeling well, I can't be here, it would have saved a whole lot of grief.
Yes, that is such a great example, because we can't give our best. We cannot give our best when we are worn out, when we are sick, when we don't feel well, when we're in that strain. We can't give our best, and then we end up snapping. You know what I mean? And that goes back to the emotional intelligence piece as well. And that's one of the assessments that I do with my clients as well, is learning where you are on your emotional intelligence wheel. So how's your self-awareness? How's your self-regulation? How can you tell the social awareness of others? And then can you regulate others? Like if you're in a big room, in a big setting, can you regulate that also? Like, where are you? And sometimes you're really good, and then it's about just going from good to great. You know what I mean? Because that's another thing. The other thing that I also do with my clients is I have an assessment called the driving factors. So this is about motivators. And when you know your motivators, you can also succeed with ease easier. Because if you are working outside of your motivators, you're going to be more stressed. And your motivators aren't necessarily like, not necessarily what specific job like what industry you're in. It's nothing like that. It's, for example, there on one of them, it's, are you someone that is knowledge based, or are you more just like instinctive based, right? And you're going to learn on the fly, go with your gut, things like that, right? So if you're someone that loves research and loves learning knowledge that way, and you are put in a position where you're like, oh, we're just learning on the fly, like, here we go, you're going to be stressed. Can you imagine the stress that's going to come in your life when you're like, oh no, like, I like to learn about it, I like to read about it, but I am expected here to just like go and do it? That's stressful, right? So then it's learning about yourself in that way, so that can bring some ease to you also. There's 6 different categories, and you can figure out where you are on that. So that's just another great, like, I'm always like, the more you can know about yourself, the easier you can make your life also, because you can make sure that you're doing things that can bring ease to you in that way. Joanne, I know that you had asked me originally about, I think it was you that had asked a little bit about a breakthrough. I do want to share. Jen, is it okay if I just share a minute just about my breakthroughs?
Absolutely.
So with my clients, one of the things that I do, it is a deep dive. And when we talked about our emotions and we talk about some beliefs that we've had, you've all heard limiting beliefs. People have talked about limiting beliefs. We carry those around with us. And, you know, it's easy to say, well, just get rid of your limiting beliefs. Well, great. And how do I do that? So I am trained in neuroscience. So I'm trained in NLP. And the way that we do that is kind of go in and fry your brain, right? Like we're like, we need to like like make it all reconnect. And to do that, we work with your unconscious or subconscious mind. And it's a full day, because when you do it in one day, and don't get me wrong, like I'm going to say something about therapy, and this does not replace therapy. They're different. Okay, they're just different. But that's a 45, 50-minute session. You have this long and then you're done, right? And then you go back the next week, 2 weeks later, a month later, whatever, you know what I mean? Then you talk about it again and then you're done. This in a full day, when you can devote a day to it, and when you can truly tap into your subconscious mind, you can make shifts happen so much faster. So when my people leave me, when my clients leave me, and a lot of my clients that come to me, they are business owners. They are people in sales. They are people that know they have to get out of their way truly in order to make their success happen, right? So when they do that, then their emotions can level off. That was the biggest thing that happened. I'll tell you what, my relationship with my husband improved 45% probably. I mean, it was already good. So I just, you know what I mean? Like it went from here to here. We had just so much better relationship when I leveled my emotions off. My beliefs, I got them out of the way so that I could really get out of my comfort zone, but still stay in that, you know, place on the chart that we wanted to stay in. And the other thing that is really important is aligning your values. And so when people talk about values, often it's like, well, yeah, you know, faith, family, you know, whatever your top values are. This is going so much deeper into your values, so that like we're talking like we need a list of, you know, like your top 50, 75 values, and then really unconsciously aligning them so that every decision then that you make is made from your top values, because that is what drives you. And often our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, our values are different. We think they're this, but really they're this. And then we're like this. And then that's why life is not easy. That's why we're, you know what I mean? That's why we're in the grind. That's why it's hard. That's why we feel overwhelmed and we're stressed and we're like, oh, Calgon, take me away. Where when we can align them, life can become so much easier. So all of that goes together. So when I do the breakthrough, that can, what I say, make faster all of the 4 parts that we talked about. It just makes all those things go faster for the people that want that, is what I'll say. So and it's a deep dive, and it's about 8 hours long. It's absolutely amazing and exhausting, and heals a lot of things all at the same time. It's fantastic. You can see by the smile on my face, I just love it. So those are some things that I do. You know, what time is it? Oh, can I share one more story real quick? Okay. So ladies, when I was around, I feel like 21-ish or so, I went to a place to go skydiving. My best friend, called me up and said, do you want to go skydiving? Well, I never let my best friend do something that I didn't do, because then she'd have one up on me. So I said, of course I'll go. Okay, I don't like heights. What am I doing? But I went. And I learned that we were going to do a static line jump. Does anybody know what a static line jump is? Okay, most people are familiar with tandem. That's when you're going on somebody's back and you're going together. A static line jump, you do much lower. You're only at 3,000 feet. You're attached to the plane by a static line. And when you jump, the static line, like the plane automatically helps pull your parachute. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. The static line does the work for you. All right. Well, you still have to go through a 4-hour training in case something goes wrong. You have to be able to know how to pull your parachute. So we show up in the morning and we go through this training. And here's what had happened. I learned very early on that I was going to have to hold on to this, not the wing, but there's this arm of this like bar that comes off the wing of the plane. I was gonna have to hold on to it for the count of 3 seconds while my feet were just flying in the air, okay? I couldn't even do the pull-up, ladies. Remember the pull-up in elementary school? I was awful at that. So the whole day, all I was thinking about is, how am I gonna do, like, how am I gonna do this? Like, I couldn't do this. So how am I just gonna, at 3,000 feet, hold on? So I was freaking out about this. So there was a little stress going on there. Then we finished our whole training. It's time to go up. All the instructors are over here talking. There's a storm coming in. So they tell us, we better hurry up so we can beat the storm. Okay, so we get into this little plane. These are the little Cessnas. We get in this little plane. We go up 3,000 feet, and Jeff was going to go first. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch Jeff. I'll do exactly what Jeff does. So Jeff steps his feet out on this little platform. He walks his hands up. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. You look at the instructor, you look up, you let go, and off you go. Okay, perfect. Jeff's parachute does not open. Now, luckily, Jeff paid attention in class. So Jeff ended up pulling his own parachute. Everything was fine. Jeff's going, all is well. But the rest of us in the plane are still like, what is happening? So the instructor turns and he points to me. You're next. So I walk up and I get over the edge and I look over the edge and I'm frozen. Sweat is dripping down me, ladies. I'm like, there's no way. Like, what am I doing? What? I'm just frozen. So the instructor, now remember, this is way back. Like, this is like early 90s, okay? The instructor looks at me and he goes, if you don't jump, I'm going to kiss you. So I said to myself, well, I guess we're going. So I stepped my feet out. I walked my hands up, and this is where I'm supposed to go 1, 2, 3, 3 counts of just flying in the air, right? Just holding on to this bar. So I step my feet out. I walk my hands out. As soon as I take my feet off of the platform, Kelly Risse is gone into the air, gone. Everybody's like, where'd she go? I'm gone. Now, the good news is my parachute opened and it was beautiful. My parachute opened and I'm gliding and I just relaxed into it. And ladies, the most amazing thing, you're just up there in the air and I start singing free falling because that's what you sing when you're skydiving and you see the ground below you and it was so freeing and it was relaxing and peaceful and I thought, oh, this is beautiful. This is what I want. So then I decided the biggest thing I was going to do, I totally messed up the beginning, but I'm going to nail the landing. So that was my job. So I get closer and closer to the bottom. I'm gliding to the bottom. And I want you to show, this is what you have to do. You ready? We're going to do this with me if you can. Take your hands up like this. And then you're going to practice your feet too. You pull and you walk, right? So practice like pulling and walking, okay? And just if you were standing up, you'd pull and walk, all right? That's what you do. And I thought, I'm just going to nail this. So here I go. I'm floating, I'm floating, I'm floating. And I pulled it and I walked out of it and I gave myself a 10, just like an Olympic gymnast. And ladies, here's what I realized. We all have a parachute and we can pull it at any time to help us get ease in our life. We have the power to bring the ease in, to bring the peace, to bring the gliding that is in our control. And you at any time can start. And so that is what I want to leave you with today, is that remember the parachute is on your back and pull it at any time, pull it often, and take care of yourself. Jen, do you want to come back on?
Yeah, I think that was amazing. I love your ending. I think today was really good. I don't know how to verbalize it, but I think it was a good reminder that we all need to remember to pull our parachute and be in tune with how we're feeling, our energy, our focus, all of the things that you mentioned today. So I know when we are in out of alignment, our energy does get depleted. So I love this reminder, especially during this time of year when we are stretched so thin. And I truly think everybody in this group are those top performer, high achiever women.
Yes.
So I think we just give ourselves a little bit more grace and listen to the words that Kelly shared today. We're going to be golden. So, Kelly, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. And I love that you have your QR code here. So I'll let you.
Yes, thank you. I didn't know if you could see it or not. My computer was going crazy. But ladies, if you want to stay connected with me, if you want to hear about when my books come out, if you want, and this is just a short little survey. There's like 5 questions of smiley faces. And that just helps me know, like, what do you want more of? What did you love? What are you like, oh, I didn't need to hear this part, but I loved this part. I would love if you would just as a speaker, this totally helps me. If you would take like 2 minutes to do this, that would be awesome. And then I know you all have busy days and you can be on with your day. But I thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
Amazing,
you,
Kelly.
everyone. Yeah, Kelly, that was amazing. Thank you, everybody, for joining here today. The next G.R.I.T event for the end of the year is going to be the luncheon next week, Wednesday on the 18th at the Pear Lodge. And Kelly's actually going to be a panelist. And so we'll get to hear her words of wisdom again. So on holistic wellness. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.